20th of November 2022, the game started in Qatar, and a lot of fans actually thought it wasn't going to go well for some countries, and for the big boys, a lot of them dropped along the way. And for Africa, 5 representatives, one of them stayed all through till the semi-finals, and they played in the third place where they finished fourth, talking about the Atlas Lions of Morocco. And today, the 18th of December 2022, we get to see the final showdown between Argentina and France. Who gets to win it? Will Lionel Messi crown his legacy by becoming the greatest of all time by winning the only trophy that has eluded him for a long time, talking about the World Cup? Or will Kylian Mbappe emerge as the GOAT to look out for, talking about him emerging as well as the greatest of all time for the French national team? We look forward to the final crackdown later today in the World Cup, where 166 goals have been scored so far in that tourney. I am Udoka Njoku, and this is World Cup Special. All right, it is World Cup Special, and I am Udoka Njoku. A lot to look forward to today in the tournament, being the last day of the show, talking about the World Cup Special, and of course, the final crackdown between Argentina and France. Exciting moments in the World Cup since day one, the 20th of November, to today, the 18th of November. And I've got exciting guys to talk about everything happening in Qatar. I've got the man called Long John. I actually see him as the shortest man in the planet, John Ojetunde, in the house today. Good to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Luca. It's really great to be here, discussing the grand finale, of the World Cup, considering the fact that we've seen a lot of great, football that has happened in the last 1 month. And today, I just cannot wait. I can't wait.
Of course, an interesting tournament it has been so far in Qatar. And I've got the big boys also joining us in diaspora, talking about Clive Shaze, who is in Qatar. And I've got Andrew Olsen as well joining us on the show. Good to have you with us, guys.
Good afternoon, and happy to be with you.
Happy to have you with us. Clive, you have been caught. Where were you last night?
Well, after the Morocco versus Croatia,
you went partying.
We had Sean Paul performing. So even if you had plans of going back home and sleeping, know that every day you get to see Sean Paul performing live. So he got us there.
All right. And Andrew, what a tournament it has been so far in Qatar.
Thank you for having me on today, Udoka. Indeed. We all can't wait for this final. Everybody's excited. It's going to be a great occasion. And shout out to KCCAFC. Nice kid there, Clive.
All righty. And for Clive, I need to ask you this. Before the start of the tournament, we heard alcohol was banned over there in Qatar. And we know when it comes to partying and raves, we know alcohol actually gets into the mix. Are you saying no sign of alcohol anywhere in Qatar and around where the tournament is being held?
Well, in the stadiums, no. Probably apart from those expensive VIP areas or directors' boxes. In the fun parks, it has also been limited. In the places where you can find it, the clubs, it is extremely expensive. But should have been on FIFA, together with the organizers of the World Cup here in Qatar, did organize something for the journalists, those who were around covering the World Cup. And it is a party that happened somewhere on an island that is still attached to Qatar. And it was such an experience because for some reason it was there in plenty to drink, of course, the beer, the whiskeys, any kind of alcohol, you name it. It was there in plenty for drinking, of course, for the people who are covering the World Cup, because the organizers realized that there was a lot of crave to probably put down their throats and all that. That is the closest I've gone to seeing alcohol in abundance, and it was actually free of charge. But when you talk about the tournament in general, it has been in specific places, and where you get to find it, it is extremely expensive.
All right, and I beg to ask, I love to talk about the beautiful women in Qatar as well. I've heard a lot about them, so you are seeing them firsthand. Would you put me through? Are there really beautiful women over there?
Well, but of course, yes, there are lots of them here. Of course, coming from different parts of the world. And
All right. And for John, I'm sure you regret not being in Qatar because of the beautiful babes over there. I had to just bring that up. But of course, it's been a wonderful tournament in Qatar. Amazing football. 166 goals scored so far. Now, the goals have made it to one of the top 4 highest goals scored in World Cup history.
I mean, Udoka, you really cannot, say so much about, in terms of all the statistics. They are quite amazing. Before the start of this World Cup, remember there were a lot of controversies about, Qatar as regards human rights and all of that. But
Yeah.
I mean, away from all of that, distraction, football was the main focus, and the football gave us everything we needed to see when it comes to seeing something amazing, something beautiful about the football. Look at the start of the World Cup. Whoever thought that we're going to have one of the greatest upset in football, which has to be Saudi Arabia, beating Argentina in that first game. We saw that fantastic, and also Morocco, showed absolutely, brilliant. How devastating they could be, and taking out even the big boys at the World Cup. Whoever thought that Morocco could, would get to the semi-finals? They really punched above their weight, and they represented Africa very well. Although some people have come up with different controversies. Oh, Morocco, they're part of the Arab world.
Yeah.
Too many controversial stuffs about this World Cup. But then again, you really cannot take out the beauty, things that we've never, we never imagined could happen, happening at this World Cup. I'm really, really excited, for, Qatar, giving us a glamour, in this World Cup. And Africa, well represented. Of course, Udoka, you can also remember that some of the African teams that represented us, at this World Cup, their first game was very poor. After the first game, we all thought that this is just, might likely be a very bad World Cup. Some even predicted that African teams might not even get to score a goal in this World Cup. But after the first game, the second game, they came alive. Ghana, well, I wish Ghana didn't just, partake in this World Cup. I just wish the Ghanaians, weren't part of this World Cup. But then again, happened, they deserved it because they knocked out Nigeria. And then also for Tunisia as well, they defeated France in this World Cup. So I'm much more concerned about the African teams. They did brilliantly well, despite the fact that, they didn't get past the group stage except for Morocco. So all in all, I think it was a great World Cup as far as I'm concerned.
It was a great World Cup. And the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, came out to say, this would be the best World Cup ever. I'd like to ask Andrew Olsen, do you agree with the FIFA president? Has this been the best World Cup?
Well, I think if you're looking at purely from a sporting standpoint, I think it's certainly up there. I remember the first couple of days, we were kind of asking perhaps where the goals were at. But as John mentioned, that Argentina-Saudi Arabia match really kind of turned things around and kind of took all the attention off of, some of the human rights issues that were mentioned and really focused purely on the football. And I think as far as Infantino saying that this is up there at the highest, that's probably, the president of FIFA, promoting his product. But certainly, I think he makes a very good point. I think there's been so many entertaining results, so much parity, lesser known teams really making their announcements on the big stage, like Morocco, of course. So I think it's really hard to argue, honestly, as far as entertainment and surprises. This World Cup is probably up there with them.
I'll stay with you. What team will you pick as your best team of the tournament?
I think I'd have to go Morocco. This was certainly, I expected Morocco to make it out of their group, but to make it, beyond Spain, beyond Portugal, my goodness. I think this is really a coming out party for the Moroccan team, and I think they've deserved all the plaudits that they've gotten in this competition.
And Clive, do you agree with Andrew?
Without a doubt, Morocco has been a surprise package. First of all, we need to remember that they topped their group. No one saw them topping their group, much as we all wanted to see them qualify for the next round. They topped their group. On their way to making into the semi-finals, they knocked out former world champions in the last 4 years. That is Spain. They knocked out former European champions in Portugal, but they also topped a group that had former European champions in Germany. They beat Belgium convincingly, a team that was ranked third in the world at the time. So there is no doubt that even for me, they are the team of the tournament. Though there is a small detail they had so many absentees coming into this competition, and everyone looked at them and everyone wondered if they'll be able to go this far. But Didier Deschamps has just done magic with his French team and brought them this on the verge of becoming the first nation to defend the World Cup in 6 years. But if I'm to pick one, definitely it is Morocco because of the joy and belief they have been able to give us, first of all, as a continent, that actually it is doable out there. You can organize yourself, go out there and compete with the big boys and get the results at the biggest stage.
All right, and for Morocco finishing fourth in that one, we'll get to talk about that game. But I really want to ask, we'll be seeing the closing ceremony today. The start of the tournament, we saw a very colorful opening ceremony to the World Cup. And a couple of artists were supposed to be around to perform, and some of them could not make it because of one or two issues. And now we're going to be seeing a closing ceremony, which is likely to be more colorful than what we saw in the opening ceremony. Take us through with the feelings over there in Qatar.
Well, first of all, I have managed to get snippets of videos of performers rehearsing ahead of the opening ceremony today in Lusail itself. And yes, I must admit, it is going to be a very, very colorful ceremony. But also, before you talk about the closing ceremony, today is the National Day of Qatar. Now, what happens on the National Day that most malls cut all their goodies. They put a 50% discount on most of the goodies. So you can imagine that you have Qataris going out there to buy things they have always wanted on discount, 50% discount, including all those who have come for the World Cup. And it is on the same day that you're having the final of the World Cup. You believe they are going to outdo themselves because we have colleagues who are working at the Lusail Stadium in different capacities and all that. And they've also been able to see the kind of work that has been put into the closing ceremony, and everyone is saying that it is going to be that spectacular and epic.
All right, we're looking forward to a more colorful closing ceremony. And for the Qatar National Day, of course, wishing the Qatari people the very best of the day and 50% discounts. John, you should be in Qatar to get some of those things over there. But of course, I'm sure Clive will send us some of one or two packages down here in Nigeria. And John, looking at the players who have performed so far, we saw some top talented players, and a lot of people actually looked up to these guys to perform well for their countries. The likes of Andrea Yu, the Ayew brothers performing. There's also the likes of Neymar for Brazil, Anthony, who plays for Manchester United and also for Brazil. Which of these players would you pick as the player of the tournament? We know, yes, Mbappe and Messi are likely up there because they are both on 5 goals each. But which of these players, all across the players that featured in this tournament, will you pick as the best player of the tournament?
Well, of course, just like you mentioned, Kylian Mbappe and Lionel Messi are in their own world, you know, as we speak. But also, I'll look at that Moroccan national team, and I'd like to pick Amrabat. For me, he has been the standout player in this tournament as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, leaving out Messi and Mbappe. You know, Amrabat has really shown that he's one player that he is the defensive cover for Morocco. Anything coming into that defense, he's there. Anything going out, he's there. So I'm just to tell you that he's an all-round player, box-to-box midfielder, very creative, intelligent, and very efficient as well. Energetic. He's running for 90 minutes. So he's one of the reasons, you know, why Morocco, you know, got to the semi-finals. Also, you talked about Hakim Ziyech. Of course, a lot of Chelsea fans, you know, believe that Hakim Ziyech has quite been effective, you know, during the season. But in this World Cup, he's a different player entirely. I mean, he's shown that, you know, he has what it takes, you know, to take the team further, especially when he gets to a point where they need that individual brilliance. Ziyech has been there to provide that. And for the Brazilian national team, I think I'll pick Richarlison. I mean, he really did well for, you know, Brazil in this tournament. Anthony, it just flicks and tricks from that young man. I'm not too impressed with Anthony, but for Brazil, yeah, Neymar also, you know, stepped up at the point when he was called upon to do that. And also for the Argentine national team, I'll look at Julian Alvarez. You know, coming into this tournament, he was on the bench. Lautaro Martinez started the first game when they lost to Saudi Arabia. But when Julian came, he developed this telepathic understanding between him and Lionel Messi. And you can see that understanding, you know, on the pitch. Now he has 4 goals. He even scored those 4 goals right from the knockout stages, just to tell you that man is a striker that's quite intelligent. And let me quickly give you this. Now, before the start of the World Cup, Pep Guardiola was asked. He said, he was asked, so he was in the training ground, and the players asked him a question. So, what team do you think will win the World Cup? Then he said, not you. He pointed at Rodri, who is from Spain. He pointed at Bernardo Silva. He said, not you. Then he pointed at Julian Alvarez. He said, look at this man with Lionel Messi. they're going to work wonders. And we can see that the World Cup, finals. Also in that Argentine national team, there's another standout player for me. It has to be McAllister. A player that's a Brighton midfielder who I never thought, will come into this tournament and shine bright. And he has shown that he's one player that you can also rely on. But there's Rodrigo De Paul. You can mention names on and on and on. Also, for the Croatian national team, of course, my standout player, my standout defender, as far as I'm concerned, has to be Vardiol.
Where did you put Luka Modric?
Well, everyone knows Luka Modric is, he's a senior man. We all know that in terms of trophies, he's outstanding in all tournaments. He's been, Luka Modric, you can't take anything away from him. Fantastic guy. But then again, if you had to look at someone else in that team, it has to be Vardiol. Vardiol, for me, is a standout defender in this tournament. He knows how to play well from the back. He knows how to pick passes. He can score as well. So, and he's also good on set pieces. And that tells you that that's why a lot of clubs are circling around. Manchester United, Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United, after that young man from Leipzig. So, for me, those seem to be the players that, that stood out for me, in this tournament. Yeah.
All right. And for Andrew, in as much as we talk about the best players, we also need to look at those ones who really had a lot of people looking up to them to perform, but they didn't do justice to the expectations of the fans. Who would you pick as your flop of the tournament, and probably the team that flopped the most in this tournament, Andrew?
Well, I think I was among the people who really thought this team wouldn't quite disappoint, but I'd say Germany. I think a lot of people expected much of Germany, particularly with their young stars like Jamal Musiala, but they really didn't get the job done. That match against Japan really set the tone for their World Cup, I would say. So I would consider Germany towards the top of the list. I think I'd go Germany as my flop of the tournament, though I know there's somebody that I'm missing.
And for Clive, Germany flop of the tournament. Well, a lot of fans actually think Brazil will be the flop of the tournament. Brazil and Belgium, knowing the quality that they have in the team and, in quotes, the golden generation.
Well, I would personally also pick two. I'll pick Germany and Belgium for one simple fact. They failed to go as far as we expect them to go in the tournament. Germany, for the second straight competition, they failed to get out of the group stages. Belgium came to this tournament ranked third in the world, considered a golden generation of some sort. They failed to qualify out of a group that had countries like Morocco, countries like Croatia, and all that. So for me, I believe those two countries, much as they are struggling, they're in the rebuilding process, especially Germany and all that, the least that they would have done for themselves was to get out of the group stages and qualify for the round of 16. It didn't happen. When you look at the players, I think for so many years at the big stage, Neymar has flattered to deceive. No wonder his best days as a club footballer were under Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez. That's both domestically and also on the continent. But still, when he moved on to PSG, yes, he moved on to a side that was very dominant domestically, not the same case on the continent. You thought he would give them that spark on the continent. He wasn't able to do so. And that has been the story of him with this Brazilian national team. Today, he's 30. You expected him to go out there and dictate matters a little bit more, own this team a little bit more, own this tournament a little bit more. It didn't happen. You have 37-year-olds Luka Modric dictating matters with Croatia. What stops you, a 30-year-old Neymar? You have a 35-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo, rather a 35-year-old Lionel Messi dictating matters with Argentina. What stops you, who is 30-year-old, to do the same with Brazil? So I thought, for me, he continues to deceive and disappoint people at the big stage. And for me, I would pick Neymar as the flop of the tournament. From those players, we expected to stand out.
All right, a lot of players actually been looked upon to perform greatly for their countries. But yes, Clive picks Neymar to be the flop of the tournament. And for Andrew Olsen, he says Germany is his biggest team that flopped in that tournament. And for the African side, if you ask me, I would really love to mention a country, but I am not allowed to actually do that. But let's take a break and look at the best goals from the past World Cups. And when we return, we will continue with the show. All right, interesting goals are coming from the past tournaments in the World Cup. And I keep asking myself, have we seen this kind of goals in the tournament so far. It's been an amazing tournament so far. Interesting goals, 166 goals. But have you seen goals like that?
Not really. I think the only one that is close to it has to be Osh's goal yesterday, the Croatian guy. Fantastic, well taken. But I've not really seen something of this nature, especially the goal from Ames. That was a masterclass. I've not seen something like that in this tournament.
All right, I'm sure we'll get to see more interesting goals later today when Argentina gets to take on France. But we've got Bayonle Arashi joining us all the way from Houston, Texas, United States of America. Good to have you with us, Bayo.
Excited to be here, guys. How's everyone doing this morning?
Very well. I had to wake you up with my phone calls. I know it's about 4 a.m. over there in USA.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry to come up a little bit late, but yes, it's football. It's something we like to discuss, and of course, it is a World Cup finals. Who doesn't want to be awake for something such that only comes once in every 4 years? So I'm really grateful to be here this morning, guys.
All right, what do you make of the tournament so far? I'd like to get your views on how you've seen the goals, the performances, the teams, the players so far in Qatar.
I think it's been a very beautiful showpiece. Nothing that is superficial about it. Of course, a lot of challenges, a lot of negativity from the Western world, which is no surprise if you ask me. About the World Cup, about some of the things that the country does not want to happen in their stadium. But overall, I think Qatar has done a very good job. As we all know, so far, it is the most expensive FIFA World Cup ever.
Yeah.
And might have that tag for many years because there's a lot of infrastructure that went into this World Cup. Apart from the other challenge that happened sometime last week of the United States soccer journalist Grant Ward that died of brain hemorrhage, brain aneurysm, to say, which was a very sad news, of course. But he's since been back home, and but the World Cup has been really what the World Cup should be. A lot of beautiful goals, and of course, our own Morocco did us very proud. They have to be proud of themselves. They put in the work in terms of development, and they show the world the results. And I think most of those guys still have a lot of a fantastic future ahead of them. So far, I have enjoyed every bit of it. I have not been able to catch up with as many games as I would love to, but I think I've seen enough to be able to say it's actually one of the best World Cups that's ever been held.
All right, one of the best World Cups that has ever been held. Clive, you're very expressive, and you had this expression on your face when Bayonle came up live. Do you, by some way, know Bayo?
No. When you said it was 4 a.m. in Texas and you had to wake him up with phone calls, that was like, wow.
Yes.
It reminds me of the challenges we have to go through with this kind of job when you're working in different time zones and all that. And I've been able to see journalists from South America and North America struggling here. I'm lucky that Qatar is in the same time zone as Uganda, but I've also been in that situation where you go into a country, different time zone, but your work schedule has to fit into the time zone of where you come from. So when you said it was 4 a.m. in Texas, I was like, wow.
Exactly. 4 a.m. in Texas, and it's afternoon over there in Qatar. And of course, we're still around 11:28 here in Nigeria. So when it comes to time differences, we do not rest when we get to do this job because we love the job so much. Now let's talk about the game that went down between Croatia and Morocco. The third place match. In the group stage, they both played each other, and that game ended in a stalemate. And in the third place game, a whole lot of us actually expected Morocco to turn up and at least win bronze for Africa, not taking away the fact that they did perform well all through the tournament. But against Croatia, we just wanted something more, an extra spice to what they've done so far in the tournament. But finishing fourth, a great achievement for Morocco, the best ever for Africa.
Yeah, what an achievement. No African team has ever done that before. And they represented Africa well, just like I mentioned, in an earlier conversation. And then Mudoka, I think what happened to Morocco yesterday was just about mental tiredness, as far as I'm concerned. I think that in the first half, they were very slow. They were very slow with the ball. They were not quite quick and fast with the ball. And so in the second half, then they probably realized that, well, were behind. We can actually get a goal in the second half. Then they turned up. They will get a couple of chances, saved by the Croatian goalkeeper. And even if they don't eventually win the medal at this World Cup, they've clearly punched above their weight. They've done so well. You can't take anything away from Morocco, especially their coach. I'm quite impressed. Regragui, fantastic manager. He's been known to organize his team defensively, and you could see the traits of that, at this World Cup. Morocco never considered a goal up until the game against France. Now, they considered one goal, but it was an own goal. Yeah. So and it just shows you that he was able to organize his team defensively, and that's why you see that it was really difficult for teams to come up against them. Not just coming up, but even getting a goal, quite difficult. So I'm not taking anything away from Morocco. Croatia deserved it. They played well in terms of possessions, in terms of goals, in terms of shots on target. Croatia were way above them. So Croatia deserved, to actually end this tournament, with a medal, especially for a player like Luka Modric, after giving his all, all from the group stage, down to the third place of the tournament.
All right, Andrew, what do you make of Morocco's performance? Do you think it was more of fatigue or heartbreak of not making it to the finals? Because everyone thought this was not the Morocco we saw during the group stage of the tournament.
Well, I think it absolutely was a case of Morocco running out of gas, so to say. You could see when they were playing France how their captain, Romain Saïss, he really tried to grind it out despite being injured, but he had to come off. And I think, if you saw the match, by the end of the match, Amrabat was having to drop back into center back because manager Regragui, he didn't have any more center backs to put in when his center backs were pulling up with injuries. So I think it absolutely was a case of Morocco kind of physically and mentally running into a bit of a roadblock at the end there. And I think they gave it a great effort. But in the end, I think Croatia just had a little more experience through starting players like Modric at the beginning, even though they rested a few players. So I think Croatia just had a little bit more of a deeper squad. And I think that really came in their favor in this match. So I think Morocco, for the most part, just kind of, they were emotionally and physically a little tired by the end of that match.
And Clive, of course, the Moroccan fans over there, yes, a disappointing performance. They didn't get to win the third place, but they still get to raise their heads up high because they are the best team in Africa, the best ever performance in the World Cup. And just so you know, they actually they were the first African country to earn a point at the World Cup, and they've been keeping that record ever since. So Morocco, yet again, setting the record for Africa as the best team with the best performance, finishing fourth in Qatar, a record Africa still seeks to surpass. And for Morocco, they will raise their heads up high. But for the coach now, Walid Regragui, will you call him the best coach in Africa?
Well, we would want to believe he's the best coach in Africa, but then there's a small detail of Aleo Cisse, who is an African champion. He has played the final of the Africa Cup of Nations on 2 occasions. But of course, the guy came out and told his players the mission right now should be to try and win the Africa Cup of Nations. Remember, they have won Africa Cup of Nations, and they won it in 1976. And that is the last time they won the Africa Cup of Nations. So for him, he believes you cannot want to be the kings of the world when you're not the kings of the continent where you come from. And like we all know, Morocco's performance to run in the Africa Cup of Nations has been that one thing. I think the last time they went that far was in 1994 when they lost that final to Tunisia. So they have embarked on that mission to try and win the Africa Cup of Nations. And without a doubt, you get a feeling that they have the squad, they have the coach who understands African football very well. They have the backing of the FA, and also they have the government of the Kingdom of Morocco. So we just need to wait and see what will be happening in 2024 in Ivory Coast. But without a doubt, he's one of the top coaches out there. He's one of the best coaches out there on the continent. But also you have to love the kind of unity this Morocco brought in the Arab part of this world, especially the Arab section of the African continent. We all know the rivalry that goes on between these Arab teams, Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, and all those other countries. At the Africa Cup of Nations, first of all, somebody had to tell you that they are from Tunisia, they are from Egypt, for you to understand, because every Arab you looked at looked Moroccan. because they had Moroccan jerseys on them. They were carrying Moroccan flags. They had painted their faces with Moroccan colors and all that, and you'd mistake them to be Moroccans. But people were kind enough to tell us that I'm actually from Egypt and I'm here to cheer Morocco. I'm from Tunisia, I'm here to cheer Morocco. I'm from Chad, I'm here to cheer Morocco because I want to see this African team, I want to see this Arab nation go far. So there's that bit of unity they have also brought in the Arab world, but also these other African countries that looked at them as rivals. For this period of the World Cup, they were all one, cheering and pushing in one direction.
You know, you talked about Aliou Cisse winning the AFCON. Yes, we know, and Regragui finishing fourth. So if you were FIFA or CAF, you would give the best manager to Aliou Cisse because he won the AFCON, the Cup of Nations, or would you give it to a manager who surpassed the record Africa has never ever achieved at the world stage?
Well, a record that has never been achieved. Yes, we are semi-finalists, the first African team to win the semi-final, to get that far. But then there is the other detail of having that gold medal hanging around your neck. I mean, you're an African champion, you're fourth in the world, even if you put them on the weighing scale. In my own opinion, from where I stand, I believe being an African champion is far much better than finishing fourth at the World Cup.
All right. And Bayon Lee, of course, looking at Africa's performance, would you say this was the best Africa could put out, in as much as we saw some other giants that didn't get to qualify, the likes of Algeria, Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa, not qualifying for the World Cup? Was this the best Africa could put out? And if we're going into the next World Cup, what would you love to see from the African perspective?
I am not someone that is biased when it comes to issue of football development and performance of teams at the World Cup. I just feel it's a very simple logic. You put in the work, you're going to get a result. Morocco has put in the work. If anyone has had a chance to have a look at what is going on in that nation, football, you will see that the development level has been very, very high. And just look at the coach that you guys were talking about, Walid. He just come back from winning a CAF Champions League, and just joined the team in June, and was able to amass the Titans. That's what I call those guys that went to the World Cup and have displayed this performance. So without any question, of course, they have had the best ever. I mean, the best ever. That's the best Africa has done. I mean, kicking out Spain and Portugal in the process. And of course, France will have probably been beaten too, but I guess the mental edge showed up against them versus France. And yesterday, against Croatia, like the other guest said, I think Croatia showed much more superiority. And a lot of people are not actually remembering this, that just 4 years ago, this same Croatian team, with the exception of maybe one or maybe about three of them, went all the way to the finals of the World Cup. I am not surprised at all that they lost to Morocco lost to them. They have the best set of players at the moment in Europe. And these guys are playing in what you call average football clubs in German Bundesliga, in La Liga, in the Premier League, and they came to the World Cup and did so well. For Morocco, I think the sky is just the limit for them. Remember, some of them are as young as 18 years old, some of the players. So in the next 4 years, we should be expecting something even bigger. Come next World Cup, hopefully, I think we're going to have more sports now, since the World Cup is going to become bigger according to as per FIFA's plan moving forward. Hopefully, I'm a Nigerian first. I love my country. I'm sure you know that. And I've always been I've been a big advocate of development. I hope that the new administration of the Nigeria Football Federation is willing to finally put in the work, as we have done, especially when we started watching football in the late 80s and early 90s, that our football players that have been showcased to the world has always been homegrown. That has always been the solution. We have to be willing to put in the work. The thought or plan of the previous administration or administrator, to call him out specifically, Mr. Amaju Pinnick, was a failure. Looking for already made products, bringing them to the national team, trying to mix them together. it's not going to lead us anywhere. We see some of our best players at the moment are homegrown. Samuel Chukwueze, Victor Osimhen, and all of them that are doing so well now, young, are all homegrown. We need to put in the work, develop our football, develop our league, develop our soccer academies, or football academies, as we call it, invest in the coaches, and then expect the result. If you don't put in the work, it is not going to happen. Senegal, we all saw that as well. They are putting in the work. If you have had a chance to visit some of these countries, you will see that they are working on their football. Morocco has done it, and they have definitely seen the result. A lot of people all over the world are still in shock about some of their achievements, playing some beautiful football along the way. So hopefully in 2026, we will see Africa do so well here in the United States, which I'm very, very excited about. United States, Canada, and Mexico. But most of the game are going to be in the US. And of course, in my city in particular, Houston is hosting a couple of games. Dallas is hosting some. So it's going to be an exciting time. Hopefully Nigeria qualifies, and I can possibly pull some of you guys then, God willing.
All right. Thank you very much for that one. And of course, nothing more to actually add to what you've said. You've said it all. It has to do with development from the grassroots. Africa needs to get their acts together, because there's a prediction that Africa will get to win the World Cup someday, and we are all looking forward to that day, and we hope to be alive to see Africa get to win the World Cup. Now let's go straight to our fans' corner and hear what the Moroccan fans are saying after that ouster by Croatia. And moving into today's game, this is the grand finale. Breakfast has been served. It is time to devour the meal. Yeah. And a lot of us actually predicted an Argentina, France. Some actually said France, Brazil, but Brazil disappointed their forehand in local parlance.
Yeah.
But Argentina, France, quality World Cup final to expect.
Yes, Udoka. I'm really looking forward to it. We saw what happened in 2018, the quarterfinals where France took on Argentina, where France won that game 4-3. And so we're having another game that involves both of them in the final. And at the last World Cup, it was Kylian Mbappe that took the center stage, scoring a brace in that
game. We'll do it again.
And I don't know if he's going to do it again, but it looks like he's going to do it again. I know that young man. I mean, he's one person in the world, he's one player in the world that everyone respects in terms of pace, in terms of trick. I mean, goal sense, he's got it. So looking at both teams, first, let me start with Argentina. Coming to this World Cup, just like I mentioned, they lost their first game. And after that first game, so many people thought maybe this could be another disaster for Argentina. But they turned up, got into the final. And there's something different about this man called Lionel Messi this time. I've never seen him this aggressive before. Lionel Messi has been aggressive. And see, for you to be an Argentine legend, they need to see that level of aggressive. That's not the fact that you can play football, but that level of aggressiveness needs to be seen. A normal Argentines, naturally, they are like that. Very physical, aggressive. Lionel Messi has not shown that over time. That's why I was listening to a podcast that if you go to Argentina, what Maradona is known for, despite the fact that he won the World Cup, it was aggressive. You see that fighting spirit. But some people in Argentina feel Lionel Messi doesn't have it. But in this World Cup, you could see when he had his little jibe with the coach of Netherlands, that was Louis van Gaal, and also Vergros, the Netherlands number 19 that scored both goals, where Messi called him Bobo. But I don't want to interpret that what that means, but I don't want to say that. Yeah. So it looks like a rebirth and reborn for him in this World Cup. It looks like there's a whole lot of pressure. He's carrying the pressure of about millions of people in Argentina on his head, and he has really turned up. And also, the difference is this: everybody wants to play for Messi. Everybody wants to win for Messi. They want him to live on high. So there's a whole lot, coming into this final, and I think that they are well prepared. Who wants it more will eventually take the day. And I think that Lionel Messi himself, I don't know, because really at this point in time, he needs to cement that legacy, as the greatest player of all time. If Lionel Messi wins this World Cup, I think the debate, as far as I'm concerned, the debate between Ronaldo and Messi ends after today. So for France, they need to be wary. They need to really be wary of France, especially that front three of Kylian Mbappe, Giroud. Most times, people don't pay attention to Giroud. Giroud has stoned up quietly, and let me tell you, Doka, from the look of things, I just think that France might nick this one.
All right, France might nick this one against Lionel Messi's Argentina. But there's a prophecy on Twitter, I think it happened about 2018. That man, that quote said, come 2022, the 18th of December, Lionel Messi will win the World Cup and become the greatest player of all time. And the man says, check back with me in 7 years. Lo and behold, Lionel Messi is in the finals against France. Who do you pick who will win the World Cup?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And for the prophecy, well, as a believer, I believe in it, but I don't believe that plays football. I'm a huge fan of football. I'm a big fan of Lionel Messi. But personally, I'm going to say it here, and I'm sure people that are very close to me know, I always say if I have to make a choice between Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, I will pick Cristiano Ronaldo any day. That's personal now, okay? But going to the question you asked me, I think like the last person said, if Lionel Messi does win the World Cup today, the debate is over, absolutely. This World Cup, he has finally arrived at that age, at 35. He finally understands it. I think he has always understood it that the load is on his shoulder. But in this particular World Cup, he has really, really carried the entire nation and the national team on his shoulder. Just take a look at that second goal against Morocco. There's nothing that is called dedication more than that. He took on the entire defense. I'm sure that Moroccan defender will not want to watch that highlight again for the rest of probably his career, on how he destroyed them and be able to give that pass to the young Alvarez to score that second goal at that semi-final. So going into this particular game, it's not going to be easy. France, current world champion, Kylian Mbappe, and the other front three, and Giroud, as somebody mentioned also, a lot of people don't pay attention to him. He can easily destroy you with a single header or some of his tricky goals in that World Cup. So it's going to be really, really very interesting World Cup. I'm very excited that we are having this kind of showcase between the two best football teams in the world at the moment. But I think it's going to be very, very dicey for Argentina. France are equally motivated. They're motivated as former world champion to go all the way and win this World Cup for the second time. And of course, if Mbappe wins it as well, he's not even a question as well, cemented his own place as one of the greatest player to ever play the football, just at the age of 23. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm very excited to see who wins it at the end of the day.
Interesting World Cup to look out for. And Clive, he spoke about prophecy that he believes. I remember in the Bible, a lot of believers believed that Goliath was going to defeat David, but David came with a sling and a stone. Lo and behold, Goliath came falling down. What do you believe will happen in the World Cup final today?
First of all, I'm not a big fan of prophecies, especially when you look at what has been happening lately. We have so many false prophets in the world. But of course, if Messi gets to lift the World Cup, then that will be a prophecy gone right. But for me, it's like the whole world wants Lionel Messi to win the World Cup. All these comments that have been coming around, it would be nice if Messi lifts the World Cup on the 18th of December. Like from the FIFA president, from the organizers of the World Cup, fans are here, the Argentinian fans. It's like everyone wants to see Messi to win the World Cup. And I must admit something strangely, even the Cristiano Ronaldo diehards, deep down their hearts, some of them, I know they really want to see Messi lift the World Cup. But of course, it's not something that is going to get on a silver platter. It is something that he will have to fight for. He was there in 2014 against Germany on Brazilian soil without that probably the stage had been set. He had it in his powers to go out there and win it. Gonzalo Higuain didn't want them to win the World Cup at the time because he missed so many clear-cut chances that would have seen them bury the game in 90 minutes before it went into extra time. So you believe that this time around, and the performance he has been able to put in, the way Argentina have played at this competition, it's like they badly want to see him do so. Patrice Evra said, much as France has a very good team, they have to deal with Lionel Messi. And for him, dealing with Lionel Messi means dealing with the entire Argentinian side. Because he said, you look at the body language of these players, and these are players who are willing to eat the dirt. These are players who are willing to go to the extreme. These are players who are willing to throw their bodies on the line to say that Lionel Messi wins the World Cup. That is the kind of attitude and the mentality they have had coming into this competition from the time they lost that opening game against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia all the way up to them getting to the final. But of course, he has been putting in the shit, Lionel Messi. 5 goals to his name, leading scorer of the competition together with Kylian Mbappe, but he also has 3 assists to his name. So he has been involved in 8 goals of those goals that Argentina has been able to score at this competition. So you get a thing that they just have enough to go out there and do it against a French side, by the way, that also has a lot of new chapters of history to open, because they want to become the first team to defend the World Cup in 6 years. The last team to do it was Brazil in 1962. Now Didier Deschamps wants to become the first coach to win the World Cup back-to-back. The first man to do it was an Italian in 1934 and 1938. Yeah. But also you have the small detail of the Tulam son. I mean, I don't think we've had a World Cup where a father wins the World Cup and the son gets to win it many years later. Today, history could be made when the young Thuram, if France win, the young Thuram will become the first probably person to win the World Cup after his father. So there is a lot at stake to play for this World Cup on both ends of the side. But at the end of the day, personally, I'll give it to Argentina to edge Brazil, rather to edge France.
All right, we look forward to an amazing final. But let's quickly take our fans corner from Nigerian football fans. And when we come back, we'll take predictions.
I guess France, I think that spirit go there, but that ginger, back to back, I don't know what Argentina will do. France go beat them.
Yeah, Argentina will leave the trophy. At least they've really tried in their previous matches. And I'm a fan of Lionel Messi. So at least for the first time, let Messi lift the World Cup. So Argentina is carrying the day. Messi will be the most valuable player of the tournament.
The fans saying Argentina will carry the day, but quick predictions. Let me start with Andrew Olsen. France-Argentina final, what's your prediction? Who takes the day?
Well, I think France has some tactical issues to address with their midfield, but I think the fact that they've made it past England and Morocco, despite not showing their best quality, I'm going to go France 2-1. France
2-1. All right. And for Bayo Arashi, France-Argentina, who takes it?
3-2 for France. I think Kylian Mbappe will end up sitting his place as one of the greatest to ever play the game. I think he's going to score a goal or 2. I think Lionel Messi will get a goal. But I think at the end of the day, France will take it.
And Clive, your scoreline prediction?
Yesterday at the FIFA Fan Festival, Cafu painfully predicted that Argentina would win the competition, the final 2-1. And I'm also going with that prediction, Argentina 2-1.
Okay. And for John Ojetunde's scoreline prediction?
Yeah, 1-1, extra time and penalties. So France will take it.
France takes it. And the vote has it that France will take the day, but may the better team win. And that's where we draw a wrap on the final edition of the World Cup special. Thank you very much for joining us from the 20th of November to the 18th of December. Thank you to everybody who made this show possible. Thank you to my co-host, Onyinyechi Ogu, and everybody who made this show possible, from the sound man to the camera guys. Thank you very much for making it happen. And thanks to News Central as well. We'll leave you with what you missed on social media. And thank you guys for joining me on Zoom. Andrew Olsen, there's Clive Shaze, and also Bayonle Arashi. Thank you guys. And John Ojetunde, thank you. And have a blessed week.
En Argentina nací, tierra de Diego y Lionel, de los pibes de Malvina que jamás olvidaré. No te lo puedo explicar porque no vas a entender las finales que perdimos. Cuántos años la lloré,
pero eso se terminó.
Porque en el Maracaná, la final con los azúcar, la volvió a ganar papá. Muchachos, ahora nos volvimos a ilusionar. Quiero ganar la tercera. Quiero ser campeón mundial. Y el Diego desde el cielo no lo podemos ver. Por el Diego y con la Tota, alentando la Leones.
So happy for the team, for the result, and congratulations to all Moroccan people.